Hey everybody, what's up? It's Michael Termini with the Game House, and today I'm joined by Team Liquid's head coach Guilhoto. Midweek, with a bit of drama that happened today, so I think that's the first thing we'll get into. I don't even really think it's drama, but we got to address the CoreJJ situation not playing for this weekend. So I know you can't say a lot, and I don't expect you to say a lot. But is this going to be something that is just a short-term thing, or is it going to possibly be a long-term issue?
I think Team Liquid specified that on their tweet that we expect it to be just for this week, and then everything goes back to normal. So it's for sure not a long-term thing.
All right. Is it something that came up recently and was just kind of like we have to do this, or was it kind of like something that you knew was going to be a thing for a while?
Oh no, it happened. It happened kind of suddenly. Obviously, I don't and won't go into
Yeah.
any details, but it wasn't something that we were foreseeing or anything. But this type of things happened, and I'm more than focusing on Core not playing this week. I think it's just good to share that me and the rest of the staff and the team are just confident that Ayla will do well on stage, just like he did before. He's also the current lock-in champion, and our goals of getting the 3 wins don't change, regardless of who's playing support.
Well, that brings me to my next question about this Super Week coming up. Obviously, Super Week, for those who aren't aware, they play 3 games this weekend: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, with this being the first LCS Super Week of the year, does this like change your preparation for 3 games versus 2, and like how you're spending these couple days in the week?
It changes, but I think obviously from at least from a staff perspective, we were used to this last year. Last year was every time or every week was a super week. uh, but obviously it changes. But throughout every week as well, even when it's only 2 games, we focus a lot more on ourselves and our own improvement rather than um, be too specific towards who we are playing. And when it comes in the Super Week, you have to do that even more. So that's what we have been doing. Obviously, the fact that we had practice with Ayla before helps, and now it's just a matter of getting ready to whatever new strategies we have, we can put in place for the Super Week.
So when you play like so for instance, this weekend you're playing Golden Guardians, Dignitas, and TSM.
Mhm.
And for a super week, at least in terms of like record and wise, this is a an easier week of teams. So when you look at this, like how much of your prep goes into versus like the certain teams versus like just helping out the overall team improve and like maybe try some new comps, try some new stuff? Are you like, oh, it's Dignitas, we got to do this, or oh, it's TSM, we have to do this to beat them, or is that something that would only happen versus like a an upper echelon team like a a Cloud9 or a FlyQuest?
I think that even Cloud9 or FlyQuest, the 2 teams that you mentioned, they don't, like, no team in the LCS, or actually almost no team in the world right now, does anything that requires specific preparation too, and that includes us, obviously. I think that it's still very early in the year. No team has developed very big routines. It's not necessarily an easy task to scout team routines outside of champion, just because no team has that settled down. Um, so regardless who it is, our primary focus is on us, and then when it comes into champion selects or more like ways that enemy teams win the game, then we can adapt a bit, but we won't go away from uh, what we want to do in that week. And regardless the strength of the week, I don't think it's necessarily a easy week. Obviously, TSM is not doing too hot. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll now start doing better since Riot helped them and nerfed the range top, so maybe they stop doing that stuff. Um, but Dignitas and Golden Guardians, aren't they both above teams like EG?
I believe are they 1 win above or they're the same record? I
I
don't
think they are both. I think they are both 3-3, which is
Oh,
one
okay.
win above EG.
Yeah.
Dignitas also made it to semifinals and was probably our hardest opponent during the lock-in playoffs.
Wow. Spicy take there.
No, I mean it's not spicy take. It's like one series was 3-0, the other one was 3-1. You know, there's nothing
I guess, yeah.
spicy in that. And Golden Gardens has been playing really well recently, so I don't think it's an easy week. There are easier weeks than ours, I think.
Who do you think is the biggest threat in the LCS right now besides Team Liquid, which I assume you would say is probably the best team?
Uh, I don't know. Teams change their strength week after week, so I think, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but I do think we are our strongest opponents. At least we see a lot of mistakes that we are doing that, if punished correctly, can cause us to lose games. But in terms of, better to answer your question on who I think is the strongest team after us, it's way too early to say. Right now, obviously, the easiest answer is FlyQuest, just because they are the other team that is 5-1.
Mm.
But we lost the game to 100 Thieves. I think they are a strong team. EG, even though they are on a very negative wave of results, I guess they are still a strong team. C9, they were a strong team. I mean, I don't know. Their strength seems to change from week to week, right? They had like a really poor week, but I assume that the whole drama kind of got into their heads a bit, either on the player heads or preparation.
Mm.
Who else? Who else is there, Jonas? Who am I missing? No one. Everyone is bad. I don't. I might. I'm probably missing someone.
Yeah, you're good.
No, I think that like 100 Thieves, EG, C9, FlyQuest. Yeah, I talked about them. But right now, if I had to give an answer, it would probably be FlyQuest.
It's interesting because like when you as a coach, you go into the season probably with some expectation of how the teams are gonna like end up. Obviously, it's a liquid thing. It's gonna like move. People are gonna move up and down like the power rankings. But when
Yeah.
you see a team like FlyQuest, you know, kind of rise up and be, I guess, the surprise upset, like what is that? Does that like shock you as a coach as well, or were you like, oh, I know these guys could have done well if like everything worked out?
No, it's way too soon still.
Yeah.
I don't know. FlyQuest is doing well. There's always one team that isn't supposed to do well that does well. That happens every split. Is not a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Math is supposed to be done at the end of the split. Then we'll see if they're still holding to the first. Actually, let's see if we are still holding to the first place as well, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, right now there are a lot of teams with issues. But at some point, it can happen to us as well, right? It's like just a bunch of swings between a bunch of swings during the year. So at the end of the split and at the end of the year, that's when the math is supposed to be done. And if FlyQuest is there or not, then we'll see. If we are there or not, then let's see. 100 Thieves was really bad in spring, and then they got Abadaga and Reaper. Then they won the split with TL and C9 having a bunch of issues. So it's NA, it's League of Legends. Everything can happen. It's who could work that is not working after 6 games. It's that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Fair enough. I have to ask because you're a head coach as well. Your thoughts on this whole LS situation? Uh, I guess specifically, I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit about their performance this weekend was possibly dampened a little bit by the news. But like, how does a team like that, I guess, regain confidence after a week like this? After I guess this whole thing kind of blew up in their face. I know you can't give a specific answer, but like, what would a team do if you were kind of in those shoes? Like, what would you do to calm them?
I mean, the reality is that if C9 went with that decision, then they must assume that the team will look better after this, right? They didn't just do it in order to make it worse. If they are right or wrong is something that can only be judged at the end of the year, or at the end of the split at least. The reality is that C9 has, I guess, the fame to do some weird shit that then works out. So this one we'll see, right? People were like that as well when Jensen left for Niski, and then they went undefeated until they failed to make worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But they were undefeated. This like the sneaky benching, like always stuff happened with C9, and usually they have been right. So what they do is like if they have to do something out of the ordinary to make sure that the team goes on the right course, then their decision was just not the best to take. And that's something that only results will say. The reality is that Cloud9 still has a really big staff, and their ideas, at least according to this weekend, didn't seem to change that much. So I'm expecting to see a similar or a very similar C9 that we were seeing in the previous weeks. And but answering like how do you recover? Like if you feel the need to recover from a decision that you made it yourself, then you should just reevaluate the decision.
Fair enough. It's a pretty astute observation. Um, One thing I want to ask about is the dynamics of being back in person in the LCS versus like lock-in was obviously all online, playing from the
Mhm.
comfort of your home, or I guess like for certain teams in their studios or houses. But like, what is that dynamic? Does that change? Does it make it, I guess, more nerve-wracking, or like the time commitment of driving out? Like, what does it happens in that?
uh, Gladly, we live very close to the studio, so we don't lose a lot of time on the travel.
Mhm.
The dynamic is just more exciting. I think everyone feels it, from the players to the staff. Obviously, I don't think preparation changes much, but when it comes to being there and all being together and watching the games on the room and talking about the game, going up on stage and having to argue with the refs about the volume and whatnot, it obviously gives a different feeling. I think that this game was meant to play offline, and I'm just super glad that we are finally being able to move towards that direction, and hopefully soon there can also be audience added, because that just makes it even more special.
Yeah, and you guys had that really great moment as well, with all y'all in the stands, uh, cheering on during the interview, which was with CoreJJ, which was quite fun to watch. So it's great to see moments like that with all the teams back in studio. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, it was something that uh, I was already doing last year at Immortals. I just think that it's a small thing that can have an impact. Just support your teammates. You have nothing to do after the game. Just sit there a bit, make sure. I mean, it's not like we can listen to anything of what they're saying because the microphone obviously doesn't work for us. But
uh,
I just feel like it's a nice gesture, and hopefully we can keep doing it because that means that we keep winning.
Fair enough. Speaking of winning, I guess this is gonna be my final question here. So obviously, Team Liquid, besides the one loss, is looking really, really dominant. So when you're looking at stuff to improve on, like what is, I guess it becomes a little bit more incremental when your team's like performing so well, and not like, oh, there's these big gaping issues. So how do you like find those smaller things wrong with the team to evaluate and I guess improve and work on?
We have to find it ourselves, like, in ways that even if we didn't get punished, how could we have been punished here, and try to make it in a way where we won't. I think that the group of players that we have, and I feel like Bjergsen said it also in an interview after CLG, is very focused on what we can do better, even if we were not punished, and everyone is very self-critical. So that makes it easier when the group of players is of that mindset. Other than that, everyone just has the mentality that we don't want to end up in a scenario where we have to go to an international event and then use the boot camp to lose all the bad habits that we had from not being punished. So we are constantly actively looking for ways that we could have been punished and mistakes that we did in the game, even if we weren't. And gladly, once again, the group of players that we have is just never satisfied with how we play the game, and that just means that we will just hopefully keep improving.
All right. Well, that's all I got. Thank you so much for coming on, and check out thegamehouse.com for more LCS interviews.